So the good news is that unified field that vibrates into the quantum phenomena that make up the universe. Einstein trying to turn unified field, by the way, as what's vibrating. That is our essential nature, the essential nature of who we are, the essence of who we are. The essential constituent of you and me is the same as the essential constituent in the universe. So we can tune into that, allow our awareness to go within, settle down to a state of quietness, experience who we are within ourselves, and then create that resonance, and that shows up in our life. That's from the quantum physics area level. And
yeah, it's really fascinating. Like what it made me think of is that when I look at how people are creating their reality, people probably underestimate how much what's happening up here, their beliefs about what they can create and what's possible, how much that's shaping, what's manifesting for them, or even shaping what they notice what's manifesting for them. Because, like you mentioned, everybody, we're just energy moving. And what I've found is that if we can bring ourselves more into coherence, meaning that we don't have lots of different energies going many directions, rather start kind of feeling like, we have more things kind of lining up with, the universe, or kind of maybe what's true rather than what we think is true is here, and what's actually possible is here. When we're able to come into resonance there and just sort of listen, all of a sudden there's opportunities that are better than we can imagine happening all the time around us. And we don't have to try to create them.
Yes, it is. It's exactly spot on, Jeffrey. It is coming into coherence. And in fact, in terms of brain waves, we actually have mathematically defined coherence. And it has to do with, it applies fundamental principles of neuroscience, of how your brain learns and evolves and develops.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Right Off Track, the podcast where we dive into the deep mindset of purposeful entrepreneurs who are creating their own unique path to success. Today, we have a very special episode lined up for you. Not only do we have two incredible guests, but I also have the pleasure of co-hosting with the amazing Amy Lau. Amy is the founder of the Wow Factor, an expert in sales strategy, and an author and a TEDx speaker. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Anya. I'm thrilled to be here co-hosting this episode with you. Let's dive right in and introduce our incredible guest today. Anya, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Our first guest is Jeffrey Allen. Jeffrey is a popular Mindvalley author and speaker, a powerful energy healer, and a pioneer in online energy training. Through his online program with Mindvalley, he has introduced more than 1 million people worldwide to the exciting world of personal energy healing to improve their relationships, deepen their spiritual connection, and increase their personal presence, happiness, and the impact in the world. Jeffrey's mission is to make energy work and higher awareness available to everyone, helping us to unburden ourselves from needless conflict and pain and embrace happy, fulfilled lives of true passion, purpose, and meaning. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Anya. That's great. It's so fun to listen to that bio. I'm like, is that me? Yeah, I guess so. To me, I'm just a person living my life and trying to, share and help people. But it's kind of fun to see that context too. Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.
Grateful to have you here.
And our second guest is Dr. Larry Farwell. Dr. Larry is a Harvard-trained neuroscientist and the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Science of Creating Miracles, Neuroscience, Quantum Physics, and Living the Life of Your Dreams. Now, Time magazine selected him as one of the Time's 100 top innovators of the century, likening him to the Picassos and Einsteins of the 21st century. He's consulted for world leaders, including the FBI, the CIA, the U.S. Navy, and the President of the United States. He's been featured on CNN, ABC News, CBS News, BBC, Good Morning America, 60 Minutes, Time Magazine, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and major news media worldwide. Welcome, Dr. Larry.
Well, thank you, Amy. Great to be here with you, Anya. And I'm with Jeffrey on this. If all of that stuff is not really, if you recognize all that stuff is not really what our life is about, and we're human beings here to connect with each other and to connect with whoever's listening, then we're in the right group here.
I love it. We're making a little miracle happen here. So thank you both. All of you actually for being here on this very special episode. And I'm really excited how we take this broad range of experience and passion and purpose, and we'll find like some overlap and some shared learning. So let's dive in. I have a warm-up question for Dr. Larry first. Can you share with us a defining moment in your career that shaped your journey into neuroscience and quantum physics?
Well, yes, and it depends on what aspect of my journey. If we're talking about the scientific research, the scientific publications, and presentations in scientific meetings, it would be getting my PhD, graduating from Harvard, the academic things. Talking about the political aspects of it, it'd be probably meeting with the President of the United States, the Director of the CIA, and working out programs to use my technology overseas, counterterrorism and other things. However, for me personally, as a human being, where this all started was I was 13 years old and I had a near-death experience. I was drowning. And I got down. By drowning, I don't mean I was wondering what my life was about at all. I mean, I was under the water and I couldn't breathe. And I was out of air. I was out of time. And I realized I had only a few seconds to live. So realizing it was over at age 13, I let go of everything, all my desires, all my attachments, all my intentions, all my plans, everything. And at that moment, several things happened at once that really transformed my life forever. One was my whole life flashed before my eyes. And I've read about that, oh, you're drowning, your life flashes before your eyes. But it was more than that. It was just as clear as this, just as detailed as this, but everything all at once. And at the same time, I experienced myself as this unbounded, infinite being beyond time and space. And I felt as though I saw my life for the first time the way it really was. It was what it was. There's nothing to fix, nothing to change. It was what it was. And I realized if I could live my life this way, if I could have this level of consciousness ongoingly, my life would just flow exquisitely. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. Having seen myself experience who I really am, having seen my life for what it really is, I'm not ready to leave. I'm not leaving. I need a miracle. And I need a miracle really, really quickly here because I've only got seconds left. So I got that miracle. From that level of consciousness, from that level of abounded awareness, I was able to have an attention, a desire, an impulse, and that created that result. So then I got to the surface. I did not drown. Spoiler alert. And
thank God.
Then that was when I became a seeker, really. I realized that enlightenment is what we're here for. What I'm about is to discover miracles, discover enlightenment, and help other people to attain that. And then I grew up in a scientific household. My dad was a physicist. I'd always been interested in science. I wanted to connect that with science, the ancient wisdom, the eternal wisdom of consciousness with science. And to do that, you really need to study the brain. So I got my degree in neuroscience. It's also very valuable to study quantum physics. That's the fundamental of creation. And my dad is a world-renowned quantum physicist, George Farwell. So we worked together on that. So that was really the beginning of my life in this realm.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Larry.
Yeah. Well, Jeffrey, you also being a scientist as well, which, had you and Dr. Larry have something really in common. What was the pivotal experience that led you to dedicate your life to energy healing and higher awareness?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say maybe I'm more of a scientist at heart than professionally. I don't think I can compare straight up with you, Larry. But I can relate because when I was in college, I was studying computer science and mathematics. That's the 3 degrees I was going for. And but I started having these unusual experiences that I couldn't explain, things that didn't really fit inside my belief system. And so, for an example, I had an experience with my girlfriend at the time, where I was sleeping. I was just having this dream, and my body kind of jerked a little bit, like it does sometimes. And then it's kind of like my dream. The curtains just sort of parted, and she was there, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, oh yeah, I'm just sleeping. And she said, okay. And then the curtain sort of closed again and my dream resumed. And then I opened my eyes and I looked over at her and she was looking at me and I said, why didn't you just talk to me? And she said, well, I just thought it'd be easier to go where you were. And I'm like, okay, I don't really understand what happened. Like, I don't even know that that's possible. And so, early on, just in college, I got started having these experiences that didn't fit inside my beliefs. But that scientific part of me wanted to know more. I couldn't just discount my experiences because they didn't fit in my preconceived beliefs. So I kind of, at that point, I figured I've got sort of two paths to follow. I mean, in retrospect, I think at the time, it just all happened, right? But in retrospect, I kind of had two paths. I could either double down on my beliefs and just discount my experiences and say, that didn't happen. That was crazy. I'm just going to keep going this way. Or I can say what I did, which was, where did these beliefs come from anyway? The way that I understand the world. And so I started kind of asking that question about all my beliefs. And I realized they didn't really come from anywhere that I could verify. They came from what my parents told me, what I learned in school and church and from my friends. And I was like, okay, I can't really claim that these are all credible. So I'm just going to sort of let go of this idea that I know how the world works. And I'm going to dive in and just seek out anything, no matter how kind of strange it seems at the time, and just start having experiences, because those are things, especially repeatable experiences with me and other people, that that's data, that's information. That's like the scientific part of me liked that. Like, that's stuff I can deal with. Whether I understand it or not, I can trust that. And so that kind of took me down this dual road of like continuing to study all these interesting things about energy healing and intuition. And even I got into channeling for a while and kind of all these sort of new age things at the time. But I also had my career path, 15 years as a software engineer and working for the Department of Energy, which is, a different kind of energy, and working for corporate America and sort of kind of living these two lives. I was a little bit afraid to tell people about the spiritual part because I thought I'd lose credibility, and maybe at the time it was probably true. Now, not so much. Now I think people can get away with having both aspects themselves, and it's kind of people embrace that and enjoy that rather than feeling like they should hide one part. Yeah, so that was kind of the start, and then I'd say that the moment when I decided to go full time into energy healing was years later in a really simple moment. I was meditating and tuning in. I've been practicing kind of talking to my guidance, and I asked the simple question of why am I here? And the answer I heard really shocked me. What I heard was, you're here to be of service. And at the time, it was like kind of all at once, I felt this feeling of like excitement and also a little bit of embarrassment, because to me, service was something that I received. It's like I go to the restaurant and I get service. I go to the gas station, I get service. And I was kind of embarrassed. I'm like, I can't believe I'm so self-centered. I didn't even know, I just had no idea. And so it kind of really just blew my mind open. Like, I'm here to be of service. Wow. And then, is that happening in my current job? Not really. I'm writing software. I'm making money. I can pay the house bills. Everything looks good. But I don't think I'm serving anybody. I don't even think I'm serving the company. I'm probably just mostly warming up the chair, sitting in meetings, deleting emails. This probably isn't why I'm here. Right. And so that kind of was the moment where it's like, something else is coming. I don't know how it's going to transition, but I'm ready. And for me, it was a little easier because at that time, I had many years of experience and training in energy healing and intuition and so on. It just was this weird hobby, but that's the moment where I decided, hey, this weird hobby might be my thing, actually.
As you found your way, your center is actually by being of service to others, and you didn't even realize that. And then now you're just affecting so many people because of some things that you discovered. And this is really, contributing to the life path and in what you're here to do. And I hear a lot of speakers, talk about their experiences of being like, having stage fright when they get on to stage and so forth, until they realize that, hey, it's not about them. but it's more
Yeah.
about somebody needs to listen to and hear that message. And that's what you're doing. And so thank you for doing that in the world.
Yeah,
That's
you're
helpful.
totally right, Amy. When you're on stage, if you're feeling nervous, then you're thinking about what other people are, how they're perceiving you. But if you're really just tuned into your audience and like, how can I help them? There's no nervousness happening there. There's just excitement, enthusiasm, and connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? This also made me think about, I think about this dynamic where we're, looking at AI, we're looking at innovation and technology. And as society, there's this kind of pull to think about like it's natural to innovate and look for the next app, next tool, next technological innovation. But I'm always thinking, what if we go back to seeing ourselves and our brains as being the super consciousness and tool, like, like the higher capacity? And then what would be the potential if a society would actually prioritize our inner potential versus just the technological aspects? So I feel like this is a really cool place where actually it seems like more and more people, successful people working at Google, Harvard graduates, are talking about these things that would like people like, oh, that's a little out there, but now it's becoming very mainstream. And I love what it feels like there's this intersection of consciousness just as a society that's rising around this. And with that in mind, like Dr. Larry, you wrote a book about miracles, and here you are, quantum physics, neuroscience. Can you talk about like what did you find that where the science meets miracles, and how can we bring more of those miracles into our life? And anybody chime in on this?
All right. Well, first of all, science and miracles, science of creating miracles, you have to come up with a scientific definition of a miracle. And it used to be thought a miracle was something impossible according to the laws of science, and somehow it happened. Well, I was sitting with my dad, a quantum physicist, at lunch. We were in a restaurant. And I said, hey, Dad, anything is possible. He said, yes, son, any imaginable configuration of quantum particle wave phenomena is possible. Some are probable, some are improbable, some are highly improbable, but anything is possible. And that's the case. In quantum mechanics, anything is possible. And some things are just probable or improbable, and it functions according to the mathematical laws of probability. And being a fellow math guy, I'm sure Jeffrey will appreciate that. Now, I said, okay, so it's possible that the elementary particles that make up my body and yours, plus enough air to breathe, will tunnel from here to the other side of the moon, and we'll carry on this conversation there. And tunneling is a known phenomenon in quantum mechanics that can be demonstrated in laboratory. He said, yeah, you're right. And in fact, he got out a paper napkin in a restaurant, and he wrote a quick formula, and he calculated the approximate probability that was going to happen. And it was low probability. It actually didn't happen. We stayed in the restaurant. But the point is, and actually that's the first point to take home message I'd have, is that those impossible dreams that you have, that some people say are just not possible, well, they are indeed possible. And then the question comes, can we create not impossible events, because anything's possible, but can we create highly improbable events? And we showed in the scientific laboratory that we could create highly improbable quantum mechanical events. We've all had an experience like, gee, I'd really like to hear from Amy, and just then the phone rings and it's Amy. Maybe we brought that about, but you can't say it's an experiment, because a scientific experiment, because we don't know the probability. Well, we do know the probability of alpha particle emission by plutonium, which is one of the major ingredients of the atomic bomb. My dad was one of the guys who developed the atomic bomb in the Manhattan Project. So we took plutonium and we tested in the laboratory using standard quantum physics apparatus to see if we could shift the probability of distribution to an extremely improbable, to a miraculous level, off the charts in the statistics book. And we found that we could. So that's actually the second thing I'd say, is that all of the wise people throughout the ages, including Jeffrey and including many people in the last 10,000 years or more, who said we create an impulse on the level of our consciousness that moves nature. In that impulse, it's like you pluck a guitar string and it resonates at a resonant frequency. Other instruments in the environment pick that up. We create an impulse on the level of our consciousness that moves nature, or what we would call today the conscious unified field, and then that shows up in our life. All the wise people who said that's how we create our lives, they were in fact right, and we showed that in the scientific way.
Okay. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's amazing. I really appreciate the work that you're doing of bringing it into tangible science, because I think that's probably one of the things that's going to help move more people, invite more people into that reality. Like some people are like me, where I can just, I'm okay if my reality doesn't jive with most people. Like I'm happy with it. I have that kind of mindset. But most people feel a little more comfortable if there's some kind of, they can point to something and say, okay, there's some backing here. And
Yeah.
so that's great. I think what you're doing is really going to help kind of shift this little movement into or is helping shift this little movement into a very big movement. Exciting.
I'm curious. Obviously, we have your book, and people can you have to point to that for insight. How do you increase the likelihood of miraculous outcome? Like, is there something besides outside the lab that common humans can just start doing as they're listening to this? Let's get miracles happening.
Yes. Well, all right. In order to answer that, I have to peek out I'll make this brief about the quantum physics involved and about the neuroscience involved. With respect to the physics, in front of me is this table. You can hear me knocking on it, perhaps. It looks brown and very solid to me. But if you look at it more scientifically, not more woo-woo, but more scientifically, you see it's not solid at all, mostly empty space, molecules moving around very quickly. You look within those, you see atoms. You look within those, you see elementary particles, protons, neutrons, electrons. You look within those, you see quarks. You go down to the string theory level, it's vibrating string. So the whole universe is just vibrating string. This table is not some solid object different from anything around it, different from the air around it or from my body. It's simply a pattern of vibration. So the good news is that unified field that vibrates into the quantum phenomena that make up the universe. Einstein coined the term unified field, by the way, as what's vibrating. That is our essential nature, the essential nature of who we are, the essence of who we are. The essential constituent of you and me is the same as the essential constituent of the universe. So we can tune into that, allow our awareness to go within, settle down to a state of quietness, experience who we are within ourselves, and then create that resonance, and that shows up in our lives. That's from the quantum physics area level, and I'll talk about it in a minute from the level of neuroscience and how we apply the neuroscience, but I'd like to hear what others of you have to say, what Jeffrey has to say, and the two of you have to say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's really fascinating. I'm listening to you talk, and then I'm kind of receiving all this kind of information. Probably the same information that's coming into you. I'm just sort of seeing it and feeling it. And yeah, it's great. Like what it made me think of is that when I look at how people are creating their reality, people probably underestimate how much what's happening up here, their beliefs about what they can create and what's possible, how much that's shaping, what's manifesting for them, or even shaping what they notice what's manifesting for them. Because, like you mentioned, everybody, we're just energy moving. And what I've found is that if we can bring ourselves more into coherence, meaning that we don't have lots of different energies going many directions, but rather start kind of feeling like, oh, we have more things kind of lining up with, the universe, or kind of maybe what's true rather than what we think is true is here, and what's actually possible is here. When we're able to come into resonance there and just sort of listen, all of a sudden there's opportunities that are better than we can imagine happening all the time around us. And we don't have to try to create them. Mm-hmm. It's like just sort of, it's a way of sort of noticing, oh, there's a river flowing and I've got a boat, and it's actually flowing somewhere that's even better than I'm imagining. Like I don't have to paddle like a maniac. Sometimes I can just sit back and enjoy the ride, and I'll get to somewhere even better than I imagined. But I'm curious, in your experiments, when you're talking about shifting things into that seemingly low probability things, suddenly making those happen. It sounds like that to me. It sounds like coming into coherence in some way.
Yes, it is. It's exactly spot on, Jeffrey. It is coming into coherence. And in fact, in terms of brain waves, we actually have mathematically defined coherence. And it has to do with, it applies fundamental principles of neuroscience, of how your brain learns and evolves and develops. You're crawling around on the floor, you're 2 years old, you touch the floor, you touch the wall, you touch the table leg. Not much happens. There's not much to notice there. You touch the hot stove. Well, now you have an aha experience. This aha experience brings your awareness into the present. I mean, I certainly had that when I was drowning, and it opens your brain up for reprogramming. So now, you touch that, aha, there's something here that's worth learning. There's something here that's valuable. There's something here that I need to create a shift in my internal state. And I have to create a shift. There's something that I can take advantage of here. So these aha experiences are how the brain learns and develops. And one of the major things I've worked on in the neuroscience realm is a brain response that I've discovered called you will not be tested on this later, memory and encoding related multifaceted electroencephalographic response.
Oh my gosh.
And these murmur moments are how the brain learns. They open the brain up for reprogramming. Now, if we have a situation where something happens, somebody does or says something that really gets to you, that's triggering. Well, here one way that we can do that is to react, shoot the messenger, punish the messenger, make sure they never do that again, or take it internally. Oh, maybe I really am horrible. However, a more productive way, in this murmur moment, this aha moment, your brain's open up for reprogramming. So why not take advantage of that and tune in, as Jeffrey was talking, tune into that quiet level within ourselves where we're in tune with our true nature, where we sense, where we know, where we experience that as we have some impulse there, it very powerfully radiates out into the environment. So use that what might be a negative experience to create a transformation or a transmutation within ourselves and in the way the brain is functioning. And then the brain becomes more attuned to that more powerful, more harmonious state of function. And that's how we take advantage of neuroscience.
That's beautiful. It's really powerful. Just that simple thing of saying, this is an opportunity. If my brain's going to remap itself, should I reinforce all the things that I'm not enjoying right now? Should I reinforce the beliefs that something's wrong with me or that other person? Or should I tune in and start building a foundation inside, like an actual, foundation in my brain for new experiences? That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we carry around within ourselves an inner blueprint of who we are, what our life is. And usually when something seems to be an attack on us, it's either on our value, power, or safety. Now, in reality, we're 100% safe, 100% powerful, 100% valuable. You are that conscious, unified field that creates the whole universe. But we carry around a blueprint that says, well, we're only 78% safe and 42% powerful and 65% valuable. And then we resonate with that. And then we create in our environment all of these events that prove that we're right. And then now we have objective evidence we can point to that, I'm not really 100% valuable. When we take advantage of these murmur moments to tune into the level in which we're 100% safe, valuable, powerful, the level of our true being, then at that moment the brain has been open for reprogramming. We reprogram ourselves so we more and more attune into our true blueprint, which is 100% safe, 100% valuable, 100% powerful, where we can create anything and where miracles, I like what Jeffrey said earlier, miracles come about spontaneously. You don't have to try. You simply be who you are and resonate from the level of who you truly are, and your life flows.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Tomorrow, everyone, is the anniversary that I got laid off from Meta. I was there for 7 years and then I got laid off. And it's awesome because, to your point, there's a murmur moment where you're like, what is happening with my life, right? And then before that, I had a little bit quiet, but it focused me on how am I thinking? What am I creating in my life? And more recently, I've been realizing I have a little tattoo I got for surrendering. And I've accepted that I have this distrust in life, right? And this distrust in life makes us worry, makes us want to be in the future, makes us want to control. What happens if we dare say, I actually don't need to control my life. I don't need to control everything external that I can't control. What happens if I actually say, I trust the world? I trust that I'm a consciousness, that the world is consciousness, that there's good things happening. Yes, it's easy, things in the world are sometimes are scary. But there's still a level of trust that I can have in the world that things are going to work out in the best way, even if in the moment they seem like they're still in the best way. So and even as parenting, just like a case point, as a parent, I have that 2-year-old that's crawling around, and I have an almost 5-year-old and an 11-year-old. But I realized when I start surrendering, I just day to day practical, I'm not reacting to everything all the time. Instead of feeling the agitation and like constant if I just like accept things, like not to say I like them or that I'm just gonna not parent, but if I don't react to everything, I give pause and I more calmly respond, I just notice how much energy I'm saving. So even from a practical, like if you're like, oh, this might be a little bit out there for me, I'm not following the neuroscience, like, but if you just practically think about how much time of your day you spend not liking something, reacting to something, stressing about something, what if you did it? What if you imagine just one of those elements left your life? How much more energized would you feel? Just imagine that.
Yeah, totally. That's funny. Anya, you reminded me of a story. That sense when you said kind of reacting to things, to me, if you learn to kind of be present and tune in and kind of slow down the part of your mind that's just trying to reinforce your beliefs, telling you like, you're right, you're right, you're right, don't change, don't change, don't change. If you can quiet that down and get tuned in with that part of you that's lined up with everything, your perception actually expands. What my experience of it is that the present moment, you can change the width of that, if you will. So my present moment can extend further and further into the future and past, but I'm understanding all that information in this moment. I think this idea of linear time is mostly a side effect of being in a physical body. It doesn't mean it's the only reality. It's just the only one that's obvious to us, right? But when you said getting laid off, it reminded me of that. So I also got laid off from Sun Microsystems, many years ago.
Club.
Yeah, and but because I was tuning in every morning, I was in the field before it happened. So a couple weeks before that happened, I was tuning in. I was asking. I wanted to get a new car, so I was driving a lot out to California. I wanted something with good gas mileage, and I was tuning in, asking my guides about it, my guidance, and they were saying, "Oh, today you can drive over, even though there's no Prius available anywhere. They're all sold out. If you go over to this place today, you can get one." And I was like, "That's kind of weird." So sure enough, I called the dealer. It's like an hour away. "Oh yeah, we've got 2 on the lot." "Oh, cool." So I drove over. I got there. They're like, "We just got a 3rd one on the lot." I'm like, "Okay." And the whole time I'm there, my guidance is like, "Buy the car, buy the car, buy the car." And I'm like, "Okay, this is a little bit much, a little strong." But I was in this phase of life where I was saying, "Okay, I'm gonna experiment with my life. I'm just gonna say yes and just try all the things that seem impossible. I'm just gonna just say yes to everything that's coming from within, not yes to everything that's coming from outside." That's kind of a no, right? No or a wait. And so I said, "Okay, great. If I'm going to play this game, which car do I buy?" They've got the top of the line. They've got the basic model. And my guidance was really clear. It just said, "Well, which one do you want?" And I said, okay, we're playing this game. I want the top of the line model. So and my guides are like, "Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the money at all." So I'm like, okay, so I finance the whole thing. I drive home. I'm feeling great. The next morning I wake up and it occurs to me that now I've got a car payment that I didn't want to have, right? And so, and I was like, I tuned in to my guidance. It was kind of calm. And I said, "I need a little more information about don't worry about the money." Because like now I'm kind of worried about the money. And this really fascinating clarity came in. Said, "Okay, we need you to talk to your boss. You're working half-time right now." Now I cut back to half-time because I wanted to move to Sedona. And they said, "You're getting laid off in 2 weeks. So you're going to get a half-time severance package because you're working half-time. But you worked full-time for 10 years. So we want you to call up, ask your boss to go back to full-time. You have a reason. You bought a car. You need to make the car payments. And they'll say yes." I was like, "What? Okay." So I called my boss, or I emailed her, said, "I'm thinking about this, but I didn't really want to. I didn't want to work full time." So I'm like, "I'm just thinking about it." And she emailed back right away, "Okay, I'm making the change." And then I called her. I'm like, "Whoa, wait. I didn't mean do it. I'm just thinking about it. Is it okay if I go back to halftime afterwards?" She said, "Jeff, let me make this change. let me make this change. And I was like, okay. And so at that point, I took all my vacation time. I went on vacation. At the end of that vacation, 2 weeks later, I just called my boss. I said, hey, I'm out in Mount Shasta relaxing at this retreat, and I don't have any vacation time yet, but it kind of feels like maybe I'd like to stay in there a day or so. Would that be okay? Can I make it up later? And she said, no problem. No problem. Just take the time. 2 days later, I get home. She calls. I'm really sorry to tell you, but you're getting laid off. And I just started laughing. I was like, oh, thank you so much. Oh, it's beautiful. I can't believe it. She said, you're the only person that said that to me today. But the reason was I'm listening to the wider moment, and everybody can do this. Like you start to notice, oh, there's information coming to you from all these future possibilities from the past, and it's very different from what you're used to tuning into. It's different from you're not, like, I didn't think about any of that. I couldn't have made any of that happen through planning or process or meditation or anything. I just was receiving information because I let my mind calm down. And then I was brave enough to take action, even though I had no idea why it was right. I could feel it was good, but it didn't make any sense to me at the time. It only made sense, and it made a good story later. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things
one more quick thing I should mention. The extra severance package, like I got a double severance, that was exactly the price of the new car.
Of course. You lucky dog.
That car was free because I listened to my guidance.
I love it.
Well, something I often say is the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, and the intuition whispers. And as you allow your mind, as Jeffrey was saying, quiet down, you can hear that subtle whisper, and you pick up on information that's much closer to reality. It's much closer to the conscious unified field. And so you're actually picking up information. This may seem strange for a scientist to be saying, but you're picking up information that's more profound than what you get on the level of the intellect. And even Einstein talked about that. He said he believed in intuition and inspiration, because that's how you actually discover how nature works, is on the intuitive level. And then you use the intellect as a secondary tool to systematize that and experiment and mathematics and language and all that stuff. But the intuition is really the most profound way of knowing. And when, as Jeffrey was saying, when you allow your awareness to tune into that quiet whisper of the intuition, you get great guidance. Yeah. It goes beyond the present moment. It takes into account past, present, future, all time and space.
Yeah, and I love that, because I feel like time is just, something that we have a concept of in this world, but really the universe does not have the same concept of time, and all things can happen simultaneously. And in terms of what Dr. Larry is saying in regards to intuition whispers, it has been a real lesson to me to learn to turn down my analyzer, as Jeffrey teaches, and just really attune to what my intuition is actually whispering. And in my TED Talk, I actually, discover that. And I say that every single time that I ignored my intuition, then my whole life kind of turned sideways. And, there's all these twists and turns really leading me back to the original intuition that I already had, that I did not follow. So that is really interesting. Well, one of the things that, tying in both Dr. Larry and Jeffrey, your mission is to, make this energy work, and both of you are to make this energy work and higher awareness accessible to everyone. So I would love to see, how do you see this evolution of science aligning with the growth of human consciousness? And that's a question to both of you. So thanks.
Sure. Well, I think in the long arc, not that my life's that long, I'm in my mid-50s, but the arc of time that I've seen, things are already shifting globally in a really powerful way. So when I was young, you didn't see people exercising outside. If somebody was running, you thought, is there a fire? Did they steal something? It was just kind of a strange thing. Now totally normal, right? So we went through that kind of phase that physical fitness became like an expected thing rather than a weird thing. Same thing's happening with, what was called kind of spirituality or at some time it was kind of called New Age. It was sort of like out here. Like we're shifting to where that's becoming kind of a normal consciousness. But I think we're just at the beginning of that. But it's nice to see that it's happening. And I think, pulling from my wife who saw me a little bit, she talks a lot about this. And I think that this shift is really the only way that we're going to get out of all the big challenges that we have on the planet right now. So the challenges with separation and war and fighting for seemingly scarce resources and power and all these things really come from a misunderstanding or an outdated understanding of what's really happening in the world. And so right now we're all being pulled in the direction away from that sort of separation and sense of lack. We're all being pulled into this sense of fullness and connection. Whether we like it or not, everybody's making that transition right now. But we're not all making it in a way that's graceful or beautiful. Like the more we resist that, the more we cling to like what used to work in the past. Like, but I was so good at this thing when I controlled the world. It's like, it doesn't really matter because we're not in that world anymore. Now we're in a different world. It's shifting, and it's a world that requires us to let go a little bit and flow more than drive. Or maybe a nice way to think about it is, if you love to drive the car, at some point there's a transition in your life where suddenly you realize, okay, a GPS actually helps me. Like that's helping me a little bit. I can still enjoy driving, but I don't have to pretend I know everything about the road. But then there's also another shift that can come where you're like, this came for me in Tokyo when I started riding in taxis. I didn't have a car for almost 10 years. And it's like, there's something really nice about being driven, about being in the back seat, trusting that this person knows what they're doing and they're taking me somewhere. And I don't have to drive. And I started realizing maybe I didn't love it as much as I thought. Because this is actually this sense of being on the journey, but not controlling every step of the journey, really felt more comfortable to me. But it takes a little bit of letting go of, this old world as we move into here. But I think it's, that's kind of my abstract perspective, but I'm interested in hearing Larry's perspective from a, more science perspective.
Yeah, it just seems to me like, as what you said, and then I'll let Larry also speak to this, is that consciousness to me and the, our awakening into a more collective consciousness and into a world of collaboration, it really starts with the connection that we have with ourselves, and then that we are part of this universe where we're connected with others. And so when we connect to ourselves, we're actually connecting with others, and then that brings more collaboration and more into the consciousness. And so, Larry, I'd love to hear what your take is on this.
I agree with both of you, and you both put it very eloquently, Jeffrey and Amy, that, well, the conscious unified field, which we now can describe mathematically in terms of quantum mechanics, it's a field of infinite harmony. And that's the nature of ourselves. So as we tune into ourselves, we're tuning into that level of life where we're one, where we're attuned with the universe, and where we're attuned with each other. And I think, in my observation, similar to what Jeffrey said, years ago, very few people were involved in enlightenment, spirituality, development of higher states of consciousness. Now it's become much more mainstream. And I think there's a major awakening taking place in the world. I mean, I was driving down the highway the other day, and I saw a billboard. This was a billboard advertising the United States Marines. And it was a recruitment billboard for the United States Marine. And it said, "Battles are won within." Now, if even the Marines are getting there, there's the inner is the cause of the outer. We've made some progress. And I think that the role science can play in that is that some people go with their experience and they don't necessarily need to have a scientific explanation for it. And I honor and respect that view, because, I mean, if you're having experience, that's self-validating. Some people want more of the intellect involved. They want more scientific proof. And then there are people who don't think that they're really is a such thing as higher consciousness or enlightenment or intuition. And science can help to bring people, to give more confidence to people in their experiences who are already having those experiences and enjoying them and know that they're real. And it can also bring people along in this awakening who otherwise might not take a look at the subtler realms of life. Another thing that's useful for is talking to friends and relatives who haven't quite tuned into where we are yet. Those of us who are on a path of development, of enlightenment, sometimes people that are close to us or relatives or friends or whatever, or business associates, aren't quite there yet. It's useful to be able to say, well, there's this scientific proof that this stuff is real. So in all of those ways, it can help. I think science can play a major role. And bringing together, I mean, truth is truth. And fortunately, science is getting down in neuroscience and in quantum mechanics to the level where we're coming up against the same truth that the ancient wisdom has always said. The inner field of pure consciousness is the same as the field expressed in different times and places and different metaphors and language, that field that creates the whole universe. And that's the truth that we're approaching both from science and from the field of our experience.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Yeah, it's like I think you're right that science kind of, in a sense, maybe it's a little bit, it's both ahead and behind the group consciousness, depending on where you are in that group consciousness, right? So there's people that are out on the edge leading, consciousness work where the science hasn't been able to catch up yet. But most people aren't there. And then there's, science is kind of filling in this part, but it's also quite a bit ahead of most people, where most people are. So it's a great way to sort of stabilize that, make a safe, comfortable, and even repeatable and validatable experience for people moving into, because not everybody's excited about innovating, especially in their personal consciousness space. A lot of people are more focused on, things that are closer to home for them. Like I'm taking care of my kids, I'm going to work, I got to pay the bills, and so it can feel really safe when now there's like scientific body that's saying, okay, there's something real here, and we could explain it to you, even though most people won't dive deep enough to want that explanation. They just want to know that there is one.
Yes.
They want to know there's people smarter than me that have figured this out and said it was okay.
Yes. And I love that we're going with that. I know I want to look at the time. Guys, let me know if you have anything to run to. Like, I want to be mindful of that. But I want to spend the last part of this talking about this topic of closer to home. All of us are innovating. All of us are creating our own businesses. I want to talk about how can we approach this topic of mindfulness and consciousness in business together? Like, how can we think about holistic, conscious business, and where's the value add? And what are your thoughts about how you're approaching your business perspective from that mindful, conscious standpoint?
Yeah. So something came to mind. I'll jump in. So for me, a lot of people, when they talk about business, are talking about making money. And so, but I got to go back to my answer earlier. What am I here for? Why am I here? To be of service. So if I center myself and my business around being of service, money is something that just comes naturally. Money is it's a circulation of energy. So if I'm helping and providing value to people, more and more people, then naturally that energy is going to come back to me. And if I structure things well, it can come back to me financially, right? Mm-hmm. And but if I focus on like, how do I make more money with what I'm doing, it's pretty easy to lose track of that inner guidance and just listen to like, oh, the expert said, post these 5 things on Facebook, do these things on social media, structure, you need these price levels. Like there's nothing wrong with all those systems, but they're not necessarily for every person. So the main thing is in business is being able to tune in and say, is that advice I'm hearing, does it feel good to me because I'm insecure and I need somebody else to tell me what to do? Nothing wrong with that. We all have that. Or does it feel good to me because it resonates with what's already inside me and somebody articulated it in a way that I wasn't able to? Somebody like made a plan out of it in a way that I wasn't able to. Okay, now that's feeling really good, right? So that's a person that I feel like in resonance with, in harmony with, and they're a couple steps ahead of me in sort of materializing it in the material world. But if it's so that's why I'd say in business is follow. Mostly, you're trying to follow within, but also including the other people that are on the same vibration as you and the same kind of frequency as you for that input. And for all the people that you just think know better than you, or maybe they think they know better than you, maybe just, kind of like don't listen so much, right? Because there's so many ways to be successful in business. And you're going to feel better if you're successful in a way that aligns with, your true drive within. You can make lots of money in many ways, but if you get there in a way that doesn't feel like you kind of, it's kind of like, what's the point, right?
I so agree with that. And also, since you're in Japan, I'm going to mention Ken Honda and Happy Money. And I really believe in that. There's the money, there's energy in money. Money is energy. But when you're looking in your wallet and you're spending money, is the money well spent in terms of like, is it giving you happiness and is it giving others happiness in terms of serving others? So is there resonance? And Dr. Larry and I talk about resonance quite a bit in terms of the people that we come across, the people that we're collaborating with. Are they in resonance with who we are? And so that we can, maximize and serve more together, and make more impact, a positive impact in the world. And that's, you can make a lot of money, but like how much impact and positive impact are you going to make? Are you going to leave this place, better than when you were there? So Dr. Larry, do you have anything to add to resonance in terms of business?
Sure. Well, yes, very, very much with respect to resonance. We have our own, like a guitar, you pluck a guitar string, it vibrates at a particular resonant frequency. We have our own resonant frequency. And there are people, there are paths of action, there are environments, there are all kinds of experiences that truly resonate with us, and then there are some that don't so much. It doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong. But I agree with what both of you have said, Jeffrey and Amy. When you're tuned into what truly resonates with you, you're going to be resonating with nature, and you're going to be resonating with where you're putting your awareness, and that's going to result in nature supporting what you're doing. There are several factors with respect to business, and this applies to personal life as well, that there are several factors that really make a difference in terms of manifesting a life you would like to create. One of them is clarity of vision. And clarity of vision is not the same as specificity of result. Because life is a series of experiences. It's not a series of events. It's not a series of objects. It's not a series of things. The universe is an experience. Life is a series of experiences. We might think, okay, I really want $1 million. Well, do we want $1 million so that we can have freedom and give money to support the things we love and help the people that we love and have more self-expression and make a big difference in the world? Do we want money so we can impress people with how important we are? Do we want what do we think what experience is that $1 million going to bring? Let's say we get the $1 million, but you get it by robbing a bank. Then you got your $1 million in the bank and you spend the rest of life in jail. It's not the $1 million. It's the experience. So clarity of vision means, what experience of life would I like to create? And you resonate with that experience on the level of your consciousness, and you create that. Also, with respect to resonance, it's important to have your intellect, your emotions, and your intuition pulling in the same direction. Often when we don't get what we want, we may think, okay, I ought to do this, I ought to have this, whatever, and on the intellect level, and the heart's pulling in another way, and its subtle intuition may be pulling in another way. So when we open to our awareness, okay, clearly the intellect says this, the emotion is saying this, and allow the mind to quiet down to that subtle intuitive, this is the deeper guidance is pulling in this way. That allows us to focus in business and in personal life on what is really resonant. All the parts of ourselves are resonant within ourselves, and what resonates with our true nature. And then we have a very powerful impact, a very powerful impact it sounds too concrete a word. We have very powerful resonance with nature, which brings this about. So it's in business, it's as in personal life, it's critical to have inner resonance. It's critical to have depth of experience. It's critical to have clarity of vision, depth of experience. If we're experiencing something on a superficial level, where we're trying hard, then actually it's not moving nature very effectively. When we experience a resonance on a very, very deep level, it's moved nature on a deep level. It moves people on a deep level, and people see deeply within you, oh, that's what this person is really about, and they're more inspired by that. So all of those are factors.
That's great. Yeah, I'd add one word to that list for business people. I would say patience is really important too. So when, especially when you start tuning into this inner guidance, you're going to get inspiration and visions and stuff. You're like, wow, this is great. I can feel that I'm going to be able to touch a million lives and do this. And, and it's not that those visions aren't true. Those are all great possibilities, but they're not necessarily true for tomorrow and next week, right? So when you start tuning in, you have to have a little patience with that sometimes you're seeing something that's a little out in the future and moving toward it. And you're moving toward it, whether you're actively moving toward it or not. So like, you don't have to like jump in, try to make that happen next week, reform your whole business, and then be disappointed because it didn't happen. Kind of also tune into natural timing, like not just what's the possibility, but what are likely timeframes for this to come about in? And when you have that second element of a little bit of patience, suddenly you're like, oh, it's okay that my dreams aren't manifesting today. Because we want it all today, but that's not, that's improbable, I guess, the way to say it.
That actually, I wanted to like highlight a little bit of Anya's mission right now is that she has this big vision and a dream, and she's bringing that about with her Selfful app. Anya, do you want to talk a little bit about that and how like you're bringing consciousness into your business? And also, she's a super mom and superstar. When I talk to her a lot, her kid is like sitting there and he wants to play and he do all kinds of things. She takes it all in stride, and it's as if she's handling multiple things at the same time, and I'm not sure how. So
thank you, my dear friend. And you know what I found? After this, I'm gonna do something random. I'm gonna have Dr. Larry and Jeffrey ask each other one last question. Okay, if that's okay, and then we'll do a lightning round for both of you. And I want to be respectful of your time. But I just want to add, what I found is like when I surrender, when I decided I am just going to stop trying to control the universe, that more serendipity is happening to the journey, right? Like more cool things are happening. More people are supporting my startup. I'm finding something, to your point, that's not about like, I want to make money. It's really like, I want to get to what motivates me to get up in the day and night is like, I want to live from a place where I have so much love in my heart that I'm giving from a place of not needing. That's what's in my heart. Like, I want to get to a place where I'm cleaning up all the junk inside me that's like, oh, you're scared and I don't like this and I like that. And I have a very narrow, like acceptable range of like, if I get away from being narrowly focused on what's acceptable, what I like and don't like, and expand my energy and clear up all my junk, then what inspires me is to live a place where I'm so overwhelmed with love that I'm serving from that place, not because I need something externally. So I'm really driven to think about what is happening externally. If I can't fix my internal state by external things. And that's what's on my mind right now a lot. So this is what's funny, that this inspiration is happening exactly as I'm building a startup. And I'm like creating this second surrender experiment. I'm like, what will happen if you just surrender and see what the things. And so far it's just been incredible. I'll keep you all posted on the podcast, so follow it. But thank you, Amy. Thank you for being a friend, also a serendipitous guest on the podcast that turned this journey. And just maybe like one last question from each one of you, maybe to each other, and then we'll wrap up. Does that sound good? Instead of a rapid fire question, let's actually, for respect of your time, just do one last question and we'll wrap up. All right. Cool.
Sure, Larry, you want to start? I'm better at answering questions than asking them.
See, that's why I gave you time. That's why I gave you a moment.
If you had one kernel of wisdom, one take-home message that you could say to the people who are listening here, just briefly, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a good one. One take-home message, yeah, that things are not as you believe they are, and that's a good thing. So take, like, if you're listening to this, like, take any inspiration that we shared with you that resonates with you, and then anything that didn't, feel free to just leave that on the side. And but please open your mind to that understanding that there's so much more that you don't understand, that I don't understand, that none of us understand, that than there is that you do understand. And let that be okay. Like your ego, or I should say, like my ego doesn't necessarily like that. It wants to believe that I'm smart and know everything, and in some sense can control things. But that's a very stressful way to live. So, I'd encourage you to say it's okay that I don't know everything. It's okay that I feel like I'm making it up sometimes, and enjoy that part. Enjoy uh, that aspect of you. And just like for me, I have a love of being here in this life, in this form, where it's just not really possible to understand the speed at which things are really happening. Like I'm in this kind of like tiny, kind of slow moving concrete body, like pretending I'm moving linearly through time and pretending I'm separate from everything. This is like a really fascinating experience. But that's all it is, just an experience. So like just don't try to understand and know everything. It's okay that you don't. And I think having that openness will suddenly allow so much more to come in. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe I'll put the same one back to you. Like, because I was just curious. I was going to ask Larry, like, what else is there? What's probably the same question actually. What's the one little nugget or the one little thing that's on your mind right now? It's probably already there that that you would share.
As a summary, I would say, know yourself, be yourself, and love yourself. And in doing that, allow nature to take its course. Be aware that the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, and the intuition whispers, and tune into that subtle whisper.
Guys, thank you so much.
Beautiful.
I love this episode. This was so much fun.
I, for one, would love to hear from both of you, Larry and Jeffrey, on what you're working on now in business that is connecting all of the knowledge and all of the things that you want. You both have service in mind, and so I'd love to hear what you're currently working on, and what your vision is for them.
Sure. Yeah, I can dive in. Yeah, it's easy for me to talk. So, yeah, what I'm working on right now is kind of fascinating. So, most people know me for teaching intuition and energy work, and I work through Mindvalley because that's they're so fantastic at reaching many people. And but right now, I'm actually working with my wife, Isami, on a project called Spirit Mind, and it's really her teaching that she's been sharing in Japan for many years. And it's blowing me away. So it's, I knew when I married her that she had something really special. Like she was tuned in a way that I never even dreamed I could be. But she didn't do any of the things that I thought were necessary to be tuned in. She didn't meditate or read books from spiritual teachers, or she didn't do any of those things. She didn't use any energy tools. I was like, okay, here's a person that's already to the place I'm thinking I can get to if I diligently apply my tools, but she isn't diligently applying any of those tools. So, yeah, it doesn't mean mine won't work. It just means they're not required, right? And so I've been diving deep into what is her world, her vision of how things work, and it's fascinating because it's taking me on a new journey, and it's a journey that really is in parallel with some of the science that I have looked into, like the diagrams she draws. Everything just comes to her from oneness. Is completely lined up. She's really a genius in a way that that amazes me. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's like, okay, I'm getting new information from somebody that's steps ahead of me. I'm just lucky that it's my wife.
Jeffrey, was that the girlfriend? Was that the girlfriend that tapped into your dreams? Was that the future wife?
Actually, no. The girlfriend. I did marry that girlfriend, but it didn't last. So,
Gotcha. Just to clear up. Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I loved your love story. So I know that you didn't tell it today, but I love the love story because it was the form of communication in different languages, but without actually, like, it was a nonverbal communication in energy that you had. So.
That's true. Yeah, we still don't. Neither of us is fluent in the other's language still. We've been married 14 years.
Wow.
But I guess even though that has a lot of day-to-day challenges, the good part is I never pretend that I understand what my wife's saying. I'm not under the illusion that I'm always getting it. So that makes me slow down a little bit and listen a little harder.
I love it. And Dr. Larry, what about you? I'd love to hear your take.
All right. Well, I talked a bit about the scientific research and very little bit about my own explorations of enlightenment and higher states of consciousness. And it was actually 20 years ago that we did that research. And by that time, I learned transcendental meditation from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He came to Harvard when I was a student there, gave a lecture. I learned from him. I spent years with him. And as I started to connect this with the science, it was 20 years ago that I did that research. And I spent the last 20 years developing techniques to apply the science of creating miracles in people's lives to create miracles. I mean, my book, The Science of Creating Miracles, Neuroscience, Quantum Physics, and Living the Life of Your Dreams, is actually about what its title says it's about. And so I do individual consulting. I do retreats where people come, and the main focus of it, and I love what Jeffrey said in the very beginning of this whole podcast. He was talking about experience. The whole focus, although I'm a scientist, the whole focus of what I do in my work with people and individual consulting and retreats that I have is focused on the experience, techniques to open the awareness to these subtler levels of creation within that we've been talking about, and then bring that out in your life. I'm also involved in some specific projects. One is using brainwaves to evaluate peak performance in athletes, and also in high pressure business situations. I'm working with some people who are experts in those fields, because your brain really, how well your brain is functioning really has a tremendous impact on everything else. And all these techniques that involve attuning to the subtler levels of thinking, incorporating these murmur moment experiences and attuning your brain to a more effective style of functioning, they have very practical outcomes in terms of hitting home runs or hitting home runs in the business world. So I'm involved in working on that in those particular arenas. And I'm also just beginning a project in using brainwaves to evaluate and communicate with children who are on the autism spectrum. Because a lot of them, I developed the first brain-computer interface to communicate directly from a brain to a computer using electrical brain activity. And now there are thousands of labs around the world that did, but at that time there was only one. And a lot of these autistic kids are nonverbal or non-vocal, and yet some of them are brilliant. And so I'm involved with some people in autism world in developing programs to allow autistic kids to communicate using their brains when they can't do so well with their mouth.
Oh,
and of course, what I'm also very much always involved in is my own inner development. I think that's the key to everything, and that's the focus. I'd like to think I have something to offer to other people, and yet the foundation of all, and I think all of you will agree from what you said, is really our own inner development, our own inner attunement with ourselves, with our own unbounded consciousness. So that's really what my life is. And having fun.
Yes. Yes.
There's a big world out there. There's a lot that we can do to help people, and yet the purpose of life is expansion of happiness. It's got to be fun. It's got to be thrilling. It's got to be enjoyable if we're going to make a real success of what we're all out there to do.
Well,
And this was awesome.
And Dr. Larry did not mention that he's a black belt in Kung Fu. So,
Of course he is. Of course he is. Because why not? Right? Well, friends, this was delightful. I'm giving all of you high fives. Like, thank you so much for making this possible. I just want everybody listening to feel just like the realm of possibility, right? To think about like if everybody here decided to honor their intuition, to get curious about like what is the inner game happening? How does that affect their life? And incredible things happen for everybody here. So if you're just wanting that little kind of push, the little motivation, just like no matter if I'm in business, no matter if I'm in like my own spiritual findings, no matter if I'm an athlete, there's something to gain, to get curious, to get quiet, to follow that inner voice, and to make your own miracle happen. So thank you so much for joining us right off track. Let's take over the world together with love. And Amy, thank you so much for hosting. And Dr. Larry, Jeffrey, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Anya, for having us.
My pleasure.